Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Catherine and this is Raspberry Reads. Happy New Year to everyone. This is the first video that I'm filming in 2025. I took a little bit of time off over the Christmas holidays and then a little bit of time in early January to recover from the Christmas holidays. And I'm feeling a little bit more like myself and ready to start off a new booktube year. And I'm also coming up to my 1-year anniversary of being on booktube, which is really exciting. So yeah, if you are a regular viewer of my channel, then I really hope you had a wonderful holiday. And thank you so much for being here. And if you are new to my channel, then welcome. I hope you enjoy my content. And if you do, then I'd really encourage you to subscribe and maybe leave a comment letting me know what kind of books you like to read. But yeah, so for the first video of 2025, I'm going to do the very exciting, my top or best or favorite books of 2024. I read lots of really great books. I can't remember off the top of my head how many books I actually read. I think it was around 60-ish, a little bit more than 60. Many of those were 4 or 5-star reads, so it was quite challenging to narrow this list down, but I ended up picking, let's see, yeah, I picked 5 favorite books for 2024, and I also have a couple of honorable mentions as well. And I think I've mentioned all of these on my channel before, so I won't go into too much detail about them. But yeah, so without any further waffling, here are my top 5 of 2024. And so the first book, which I finished not too long ago, is Lessons in Chemistry, and that's by Bonnie Garmus. And I listened to that on audiobook, and that was narrated by Miranda Raison. And this was such a wonderful book. It was historical fiction set in the 1960s, and it's centered around the character Elizabeth Zott, who is a chemist, and she's also a mother. And it was just such an interesting perspective into sort of the 1960s prejudice against women or challenges in the workplace, how women were perceived differently in science, in academia, and the challenges that Elizabeth Zott faces also becoming a mother. And she ends up being a chemist who does a cooking show on television, sort of like a Julia Child's style cooking show. And it's also very much about mother-daughter relationships as well. And it was just hilarious. There were so many points in that book, listening to it, that I was laughing out loud. And for this video, I thought I would do what I normally do, which is sort of 3 descriptor words that kind of summarize my thoughts about these books. So for Lessons in Chemistry, I thought it was quirky, feminist, and strong female lead. And I do look at those 2 things differently because the character of Elizabeth Zott was just so charming and empowering, as well as covering the theme of feminism and prejudice against women in the workplace. So anyways, if you haven't come across Lessons in Chemistry, I highly recommend it. I think there's also a TV series on it now. I can't remember. Maybe on Apple TV. In any case, the book is great. 5 stars for me. Made it into my top 5 from 2024. So that must be saying something. Have you read Lessons in Chemistry? If so, let me know your thoughts below. So the second top book of 2024 was Tomorrow, Tomorrow, and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. And I listened to this on audiobook, and one of the narrators, the main narrator, was Jennifer Kim. And I spoke about this book in my October wrap-up, not October wrap-up, autumn wrap-up, pardon me. And so I'll link that video below if you want to hear more in-depth thoughts on that book. But essentially it is about 2 about friendship and about two characters, um, Sadie and goodness, Sam. Yes, Sadie and Sam, who grow up together and then become computer game creators. And it's basically about their friendship throughout their childhood and into their adulthood. And it's just such a great story. The writing was really good, really well written characters, and it just had that nostalgia factor for me, because I enjoyed playing computer games so much in the 90s. So I guess those are my 3 points, is that it was really well written, well-rounded characters, and then it had that nostalgia factor for me. It's not going to be for everyone, I don't think, because huge chunks of that book go into a lot of detail about computer games and are indeed set in a computer game. So if that's not your cup of tea, then it might be one to miss. But how the characters are written and their relationship and the themes of friendship were so powerful that that in and of itself is a 5-star ranking for me. So yes, if you haven't read Tomorrow, and you're into that sort of thing, then please do read it. It's wonderful. And if you have read it, let me know what you thought down below. So the third book, and again, this is one that's been all over the place and one that I've mentioned lots, is James by Percival Everett. I read this as an ebook from the library on my Libby app, and it's such a wonderful book. I mean, it's going to become a modern classic. I'm absolutely sure of that. I think it won some sort of award. I'll put it in the on the screen if I can figure out which award it won. But yes, it's got lots of praise. And this is a reimagining of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain. And again, I talked about this book a fair amount, so I'll link that video below for you. But the 3 descriptor words are clever. It was just really cleverly written. And it was a clever reimagining and reinterpretation of Huckleberry Finn, which I did also read last year before I read James, just so I could have that context. I thought it was sophisticated, again, sophisticated in the writing. I definitely want to get to more by Percival Everett because his writing style really appeals to me. And it was adventurous, even though I already knew what the story was. It was different enough that it had me hooked all the way through. And yeah, it's such an important book. I can see this one being maybe taught in schools at some point. Maybe it's sort of like a companion to Huckleberry Finn. I don't know, but in any case, it made it to my top books of 2024, and I'm sure it made it to the top of the list for many other people as well. And again, if you've read James, I'd love to hear what you thought of it. So yeah, let me know. All right, next up we have another book that I've talked about lots on this channel, and that is The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. And I listened to this on audiobook, and that was narrated by Daniel Henning. That was a wonderful narration as well. And yeah, this is basically a fantasy book, a cozy fantasy book, let's say, that looks at a lot of themes of found family and friendship and bravery. And it's about a social worker who, sorry if you can hear that, it's the bread maker. It is about a social worker who is responsible for these magical children. So he goes to visit them in the house in the Cerulean Sea and comes to appreciate and value and advocate for them, their special powers and their uniqueness. And it's just got like a lot of powerful messaging in it, to the point that I think I'm going to buy that book this year because I'd like to read it, having listened to it last year. And in terms of my 3 descriptor words, I thought it was emotive, heartwarming, and creative. It was definitely a fun, quirky book. and not funny, but charming. And yeah, I think about it a lot. So again, if you have read The Cerulean Sea, then I'd love to hear your thoughts. And the last book of my sort of top 5 ranking was Atonement by Ian McEwan, and I read this as an ebook not too long ago, I think maybe in October or November. And it was one that I'd been meaning to get to for a while. I loved Solar by Ian McEwan, so I knew going into this that I was going to most likely enjoy his writing style, which it didn't disappoint. So this is basically about sisters and a moment in time in the summer of 1935, and one of the sisters witnesses something, and she is basically involved in what she thinks is a crime or has misinterpreted as a crime, and then has to live with that into her adult life, and atone for her misjudgment, let's say. And it spans through World War II, when the two sisters become nurses, and then into the end of the 20th century. And so this book had beautiful prose. As I just mentioned, I love Ian McEwan's writing, captivating characters, although the thing that sold the book to me in the end wasn't the misrepresentation or mistakenly judging somebody or accusing somebody of a crime, that main plot point. It wasn't that. It was actually the bits set in the Second World War, and then the end, how the book all kind of comes together from a narrative perspective. That's what sold this book to me and gave it that 5-star mark. And the characters were particularly captivating towards the end of the book for me. And then it was also really contemplative. There's a lot to think about throughout it, both from the sort of Second World War perspective, from a family loyalty perspective, from a feminist perspective. Yeah, lots of good things about it. So yes, that was the 5th book for my top books of 2024. And again, if you've read Atonement, then what did you think? And then I felt, because I was really struggling to narrow it down, that I felt like I was going to give you 2 honorable mentions. So one fiction honorable mention and one non-fiction honorable mention. I didn't read as many non-fiction books in 2024 as I would have liked to, and the ones that I did read were good, but I think, as is normally the case, non-fiction very rarely makes it into sort of the top tier, particularly if you're a person like me who reads predominantly fiction. But in any case, so the top pick for an honorable mention for fiction was The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. And that book, I did give it 5 stars, and I really enjoyed it. I would say the middle bits during the kind of war in Troy lagged a little bit. But for me, the reason why I gave that book a 5-star ranking is the ending and how powerful and emotional that ending bit is, and like the power of love. So yes, I thought I should mention The Song of Achilles, and I would recommend it to everybody to read, because it is beautiful. And then for nonfiction, I don't think I've actually talked about this book on my channel before, so here is a new one for you. It's called The Book You Wish Your Parents Had Read and Your Children Will Be Glad You Did, and this is by Philippa Perry. So she is a psychotherapist, I believe, and she's also the wife of the artist Grayson Perry. And Philippa Perry has lots of really great advice. And I don't tend to read a lot of self-help books, and I certainly don't read a lot of standard parenting books, but I loved this book. I got a lot out of it. And it's very applicable for my life, both my personal life and my professional life, in terms of how you communicate with people in relationships. So this is all about relationships and communication between parents and children. And it's about how you navigate feelings, like recognizing the feelings, accepting the feelings, and validating the feelings, but then also how you kind of negotiate two different perspectives on a situation. And it has a lot of really good points in it about repairing ruptures. So, I mean, I'm sure we've all been there where if you're a parent yourself or as a child, where you've had a kind of a blow up, and how important it is to get beyond that that situation and circle back to acceptance and love. And so that's really important for my life right now. And also, I really like her perspective on guide, not decide, in terms of parenting advice. And I also find that is quite applicable to when I used to work with students, that I'd like to give people resilience and, you know, encourage them to advocate for themselves, take responsibility, and sort of thinking of accountability for their actions and their decisions. And so it is something that I definitely live by, is I'm very happy to guide people, give them some suggestions, but I'm not going to decide for them. But anyways, so it was a really good book. I think about it a lot. I'd like to get to her other book, which I think is about love. It's got just lots of really insightful things without being too preachy. So if that is something that is applicable to you, then I would very much recommend it. So yes, those are the top 5 books for 2024. So we had Lessons in Chemistry, Tomorrow, James, The House in the Cerulean Sea, and Atonement. And then my honorable mentions, The Song of Achilles, and The Book You Wish Your Parents Had Read. What were your favorite books of 2024? And if you had to pick one of those books, which I know is tricky, that you think I would enjoy that I haven't mentioned on my channel, so presumably haven't read, what would you recommend for me, or for other people to read as well? But yeah, so this is my video that's starting off a new year, a new book year, and I'm really excited to get to lots more books this year. I was really surprised with how much time I ended up being able to dedicate to reading. And even though I read some misses, overall I had a really great reading year in 2024, and I hope you did as well. But yeah, so that will just leave me to say, once again, thank you for being here. Subscribe if you're able to, and I hope you're all doing really well, and I will see you soon in a new video. Okay, take care.